Good morning, welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program, covering religion from for this year, Friday, Rise and Shine and Give God the Glory. And today, I'm looking at the topic: sow to reap, the method God approves of, not pillage to reap. So, welcome again. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your word in this day. I pray, dear Lord, you may bless us as we study together. May you bless our minds, dear Lord, that we might truly be methodical and diligent in sowing, that we can reap. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. So I'm looking again at this topic as I continue my theme for this week. So my theme for this week is being faith as it is viewed through the lens of sowing and reaping. So faith as it is viewed through the lens of sowing and reaping. And so I'm going to cover some thoughts here, and then see if we can summarize some things that we've been talking about. So again, our topic is sow to reap, the method God approves of, not pillage to reap. And so, as we look through history, we can see, and on an individual level, when we deal with individual actors, there's people who will go with this pillage to reap methodology in their personal lives. And then there's this idea here where states or nations will do the pillage to reap. And so we believe that we don't follow those methods, whatever country we live in, that we do our day's labor and we get paid for honest labor and for good services. And we just do our service and not rip people off. And then we just take what we get from that and we go along our way. So in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 and 6, it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So when you deal with faith, faith cometh by hearing and hearing by the word of God. And the Bible explains certain things and lays certain things out, like we deal with in Proverbs chapter 1, where it says, "My son, if sinners entice you to go and rob other people so that you can get treasures," he says, "do not follow them, because the trap that they're setting for others to rip them off is going to be for them." And you can see the news all day long. You can see in various different media, social media, other media, where people will go for broke. They'll go and try to rip people off, and they end up dead, or they end up in prison, or they end up getting a spoil for a little bit, and they reap from their pillaging, but they end bad. So we go with the method that Christ prescribe and tell us to do. And when we follow that method, we have a long-term success. And we might at short-term have the great abundance that criminals have, but we end up with long-term success. And this is what we're looking for, so we can have a long run. So notice here in verse 6 it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." So when we seek God diligently, what we come to understand is just the principles, the rules, the statutes, and the judgments that we live by. And when we live by these judgments, statutes, and rules, what we get good long-term results that will bless us throughout our whole life and will add to our years. And when we recognize people who go along with all these other methodology, what they get is curse and war, famine, pestilence in their life, as they try to bring war, famine, pestilence in other people's life to take their goods and to take their money. So it never works, but it works in the short term, and that's the only thing I can say. It works in the short term, and even in the short term, the persons have crosses in their lives. So as you know, you can accept the cross of Jesus Christ and live a life of self-control and discipline, or you can do corrupt things and live a life with crosses in your life, all kind of bad luck and bad events happening to you that you can't explain and nobody can't explain. It's like a curse upon you. Well, that's what it is. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 3 through 9, here Christ tells this very powerful parable of the sower went forth to sow. And so we go with this method, even though we might sow, and some of what we sow will not always bring forth fruit, because there's always waste, there's always things that you can't foresee that can happen. Life is not perfect because we live in a sinful world. But when you follow this method, Christ says you will get the result. You will just not get the result from every seed that you sow, or every endeavor you do, and every business you do. Some business will fail, things will not go the way according to plan. Some people are lucky that they could do one job for their whole career, but others sometimes have to jump around until they find the proper employment, or they find the proper business to do, or the proper work environment to be in. But not everything you do will succeed, but you want to be able to understand the principle that your intent in life is to sow to reap, not pillage to reap. So notice in Matthew 13, verse 3 through 9. And it says here, and he spoke many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, the sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth. And forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. Right? So they had no much root, and they withered away. And notice there, sorry for a second. And notice there that and and they had not root, and they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. So here we have this a very what I would call like reality that we have to deal with. And what that reality is that you're going to throw your seed, as I covered earlier this week. You throw your seed, you put out whatever you want to grow, and the intent for throwing the seed is to get it in the good soil that it will grow. But that's not the reality. You've been in fields, and there's a patch of field that, they grow corn, and the corn just didn't come up properly. But nobody throwing seeds in a field or putting seeds in a field with corn with the intention that any patch of the ground should not bear fruit or should not bring up first the blade and then the ear of corn and so forth. The intent is always to get the seed into good soil. But again, that's not how this life goes. Sometimes you have to move from a location. Sometimes you have to go where the jobs are at. Sometimes you have to go where the fishes are at if you're a fisherman. Sometimes you fish in one spot and it was good for a while, and then you go to the same spot and it's just not good anymore. For whatever reason, you might know, you might not know. But at the end of the day, you understand the aim and the intent is for you to have increase. So when we go through life, and we go through life with this idea that I'm always have to be looking out, that I'm putting out something out there so I can get something back. Sometimes you will put something out there and you get nothing back or not much back. But the intent is for you to get something back. You're putting in something to get something. But this is part of life. Everything you do. I'm sure if you belong to a church, as we're talking about religion, that you can see the church might try to witness to people, do something for the poor, whatever. And some people come and they stay. Some people come and they leave. Probably within a 10-year span, most people that enter into a church might leave. But some will stay, and the value that they bring and the addition that they bring is a multiplication. So you can apply this principle just about anything that you'll do in this life. Some will have certain value and some will not have certain value. And as long as you go through life and you contemplate it like that, then you get the results. And the results will be unerring. There's no error in the results. Why? Because that's just the way it is. You put the seed in and you get. But notice here, this is the intention for any investments. So if you put it in money, if you put it in labor, if you put it in any skill, anything you do, this is the result. Notice he says here, but others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100, some 60, and some 30. Who had ear to hear, let him hear. So I give the analogy here, and I'll say it again. In investing money, in doing life, and if you do life with intention that you're looking for growth, your intention is that you follow God's method. What is God's method? You sow to reap. And when you sow, if you go with 10 seeds, we're just going to go with this idea that if you put out 10 seeds out there, and 9 of the seeds fell among thorns, among areas that they're rocky, among areas that can't grow. It's a solid pavement. And one grow. That one seed, as Christ says, will multiply 160 or 30-fold, 30 times. And you've seen this investment. You could see a company, somebody invest in a company. And they invest in a company, I'm going to use this example. They invest in a company 16 cents. And the company grows to a value of $2.30, right? What's the multiplication on that? But somebody say, well, what if they invested in 10 companies, right? And they invested a total of $1.60 in 10 companies, and 9 of the companies failed. But the one company multiply to a value of $2.30. Are they profitable? Yeah, they're profitable. They just need that one to multiply, and that ratio, if they can get a ratio of even at that rate. Now again, if they were doing a bigger rate, I don't know if it'll work. But if they can get that type of multiplication on one, so it's tempting, right? um, so when you think about that, it is amazing, and that's what Christ is saying. Christ is saying here, and you see this, as I say, you see this in the world. There's what they call venture capitalists. They'll go out there and they'll put their money on 10 ventures, but they're looking for ventures that seem possible. There's a possibility that it could happen. What I mean? They're not just throwing their money at anything. They're throwing their money at something that they think there's a possibility. They did their homework and they said, okay, we like that. And you've seen it if you ever watch any of these programs on TV, like Shark Tank and stuff like that. You see the whole idea. What's the idea? They'll go out there and they're still trying to find the out of, say, if 10 people come to them, they probably be doing, I don't know if they do 2 or 3 out of the 10. But the intention, you got that. So the intention is that they're looking, out of the 10 that come to them, they probably take, I don't know, I used to watch it in the past. I haven't watched it in many, many years. But I remember when I was watching it, like the Shark Tank, they would look for the ones that seem promising, and the other ones that's like, no, we're not investing. Your business don't make no sense, or you don't make no sense. We don't like you. We like your business, but we don't like you. Or we would want the business, but we want you away from the business. You're bad. Good idea, but got bad business executioner. Or I've seen one time when I remember clearly that they invested in somebody, and they didn't like the business, but they liked the person. And I thought that was fascinating, right? You see somebody, they pitch the idea and they say, I don't know about the business you're pitching, but I like you. I'll invest because of you. The business don't make no much sense, but you make sense. And you say, man, that's golden, because somebody will like, I don't know, but I think you're so good that I'll just invest in you. I think you're gonna go somewhere. That's so that's rare. But you go in with something that you think can make money. And then now, if you go with that and you think 10, you take 10 and you say, we're going to do, as I said, I'm going to say $1.60, 16 cents. And then all 9 fail, but one succeed, and one succeed to the point. And the story I'm telling you is actually literal. So it might sound crazy, but I'm not telling you. I don't. I'm talking something that literally happened. And you do 10 of that, promising companies now, and one succeed and one gave you that return. It paid for the 10 plus it gave you profit. That's amazing. And this is what Christ is saying here. So you can go to your field, and I've said this over and over again before. 10 seeds, 9 fail. We know that wouldn't be the case, because a true farmer would not put his 9 or 10 of his seeds in soil that the probability of them coming to bear is a 10 to 1. That's gambling, right? The farmer is going to put a seed where he hopes that probably 7 to 1. And that's what the ratio you want. You want to basically be at 70%. And if that's 70%, even only if it multiplies 30, the numbers are magnificent. The numbers are exponential. And that's kind of what you want to do life. So we intend is to always to sow, to reap. We're not sowing with the intention that, okay, we're gamblers. We're not gamblers. We want massive ratios. We want high ratios. But we know the process of life, because you've seen it. You can plant a coconut tree. You can plant an apple tree. One apple, if you plant 10 apple trees, and after, say, 5 years, the apples start to bear, and even 7 of the apple tree live and 3 die. Within the next 5-year span, after the apples start to bring forth fruit, within 5-year span, how much apples can you multiply on the 7 trees? The numbers are exponential. Within 1 year of the apples are bearing, now just a regular crop. You just, for the 10, you just can't imagine it. The numbers, and that's how God does. So when God starts to bless you, your cup will run over. That's my principle here, and that's the principle that I believe in the Bible is teaching, and that's what I follow. So I believe that when you get 1, the 1 is so exponential that it bear. Over the years, I've been just trying to figure out how to get to a high ratio, and especially when it comes on to witnessing. I think the church kind of just, like shooting randomly. And I believe that's our method. Our method should be that the person that's getting baptized, the possibility of them maintaining themselves in Christianity should be highly increased by the preaching and by the method of evangelism. They say the method you use to win somebody is the method you use to keep them. So we want to be able to use the proper method. And we use the proper method, we increase our likelihood. So even if you were 50%, and I've known people, they're looking for 50%. That means every one they invest in, every two they invest in, sorry, one will come out. That's massive ratio when you understand multiplication, that the one that comes out, it will multiply so massively that it will repay you for the other losses. And that's the reality. And you've seen this all day long. So notice in Isaiah chapter 3, verse 8 onwards. Isaiah 3, verse 8. So notice it says here, for Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. So Israel has gotten himself into the pickle. The story of the Jewish people has been this story. And the story of, oh, by God's grace, your story and my story should not be the story. You should not have this constant, you always get yourself into a pickle. You always get yourself into a bind, into a rock and a hard place. And this is the repeat story. The behavior causes them to get themselves into this situation. The behavior is so rotten that it's like over and over again. And they're not the only one. There are a lot of people got themselves in a pickle and into a bind because of their behavior. If you know the story of the black people from Africa, or they got themselves into a pickle. And so people can put themselves in the position that they make themselves open to abuse and attacks and so forth and so on. You don't want to do that. You want the Lord glory to be upon you and the eyes of the Lord to not be provoked to anger because of you. So notice here, the show of their countenance that witness against them. They declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. So notice the Lord is saying, there's a principle that's happening here. And the Lord is saying here, because of that principle, they have rewarded themselves. They're supposed to know better. What a man sow, that shall he also reap. So we can go in life and going against God's principle and think that we're going to go around like we're sodomites and we're not going to get punished. I always find it fascinating. They always say sodomites and proud, right? They're proud. And I always say, but what they don't know. And some of these sodomites actually went to church and they got some Bible-blessed children. And I always find it strange that it seems like they don't know that this is not the right behavior. But somehow sodomites always get themselves into this situation. So they said the Jewish people, in this period of time when Isaiah was writing, he said the countenance declare their sin is as Sodom. And they're proud of it. They don't hide it. Because we must be proud of our sodomite ways. And notice here, to provoke the eyes of the Lord. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. So who do you say shall be well with? The righteous. Who is not going to be well with? The wicked, right? That's just a fact. Say to the righteous, it shall be well with him. And this has never been changed. This has always been the case. You have to say to the righteous, hey, it's going to be well with you. But to the wicked, But he says now in the wicked, woe unto the wicked. It shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. In other words, what you work for, that God's going to pay you. God says, oh, listen, you have wages here, and you're going to have to get paid. And the payment is coming. The payment is coming. Last night I was watching a piece. I was watching a YouTuber that actually, he's not a YouTuber, he used to be on Fox News, but Judge Napolitano, he lives actually close to me here. And I was watching one of his programs he were doing, and he was interviewing, I can't remember if it's Max Blumenthal or somebody he was interviewing, and they were playing a video of young men and women from Israelis, Jews, and I don't know, I think they're Israeli Jews, as we call them, and they were attacking a, a truck with aid, humanitarian aid, food aid, going into Gaza for the Palestinians, and they were taking the containers and the containers of food and slamming them to the ground and taking them off the the, the truck. And I'm thinking, what do you think gonna happen to them? You're stealing people land, you're pillaging people, you're attacking food convoys to keep the people starving. And it's going to be well with you because some evangelical pastor and some rabbi told you that. And Israel as a nation is purported to be a high concentration of openly practicing sodomites. There's nothing changed. You look at this and you be like, what's going on? Why these sodomites are doing this? And yet they thinking that God is on their side because they practice anal sex. I mean, this is amazing what we're seeing. It's like nothing else. It's like you reading when you read Isaiah and Jeremiah. It's like you're reading the news about these people and any group of people that behave like this. So it's one group of sodomites encouraging and sending bombs on the group of sodomites to do this type of pillaging. I'll read it again. Say to the righteous, it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. I'm going to come back to that text. I have this article I want to read to you here, and then I'll come back to that text. So this article is taken from NBC News, and I wanted to share this yesterday because it came out on Wednesday. So it came out in the afternoon on Wednesday. So obviously I couldn't cover it for health. So I said, so I'll cover it today. So this article is entitled NBC News on the health section, talking about the righteous. Notice it says here, vegetarian and vegan diets linked to lower risk of heart disease, cancer, and death, period. Large reviews showed. So they do an analysis of 50 studies, and it suggests that a plant-based diet has a multitude of health benefits. So this is, when you understand that when you stop eating animals, you decrease across the board multiple disease, and the killer disease for the Western nations is every nation, but it is seemed to be bigger when it comes on to cancer. The killer disease is you reduce the risk of cancer by tenfold. This is a demonstration of that principle. It's not that a vegetarian or vegan can't die of cancer. It's just you're decreasing the risk, the probability. And notice they say, and it decreases the risk of death. So I'm gonna read the whole thing because sake of time, but I'll take part of it here. You can read the rest of it. Yeah, as you say, go to NBC News and just click on health, and then you see the article there. You have to scroll down a little bit because it's a few days old. Came out May 15th at 2 p.m. So you see what I'm talking about. So I want you to see this now. So this is written now reported by Aria Bendix. I think she's over there doing health. So notice here, a plant-based diet is associated with a reduced risk of heart disease, cancer, and death. Because remember, the wages of sin is sickness, diseases, ill, but it's also death in the end. You want to reduce your chance. That means you're adding years to your life by just getting off animals. So notice here, stop eating animals. So notice a plant-based diet is associated with a reduced risk of heart disease, cancer, and death, according to a large-scale review published Wednesday. The research, which appear in the Journal of PLOS 1 analysis, analyzed the result of nearly 50 studies published from 2000 to 2023. The studies examined the health effects of either vegetarian diets or vegan regimen. I don't know what they call it, regimen, which restrict any food derived from animals, including dairy. So again, the vegan diet would vegetarian would partake of milk, and I even think people claim to be vegetarian that partake of I think eggs also, but vegan would be plant based 100%. The study examined nearly the health effects of vegetarian diet and vegan. Okay, a clear consensus emerged. Both eating patterns were associated with lower risk of cancer because normally you get cancer from meat or flesh, ischemic heart disease, heart problem caused by a narrow artery because you're clogging up, you're eating all that fat or that lard. In particular, the diets seem to reduce the risk of prostate cancer. So for men, that would be very important since so many men die of prostate cancer and gastrointestinal cancer like colon cancer. Vegetarian diets were also linked to the lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Most naturally, good for the heart. In addition, plant based diets were associated with a reduced risk of factors for heart disease and cancer, including high body weight, inflammation. So, inflammation important because, for all kind of inflammatory disease, you want to get rid of animals in your diet and put plants in your diet. LDL, which is the bad cholesterol that you get from animals again. This research show in general that a plant-based diet can be beneficial and taking small steps in the direction can make a difference, says Matthew Laundrie, one of the review's author and an associate professor of population health and disease prevention at the University of California, Irvine. You don't have to go completely vegan. Yes, you do. You should. Don't listen to him. But I'm reading what he's saying. Go completely vegan. You don't have to go completely vegan to see some of these benefits he added. Even reducing a day or two per week of animal-based consumption can have benefits over time. He's right about that. It's right. It's like just think about it. If you have 7 days a week and for 2 days you just go vegan or vegetarian, well, that's 7 more days. 5 days you're eating meat. 2 days you're adding some health benefits to your life. He's right. But my advice to you here, go vegan. So notice here, however, Dr. Walter Willett, a professor of epidemiology, nutrition at Harvard T.H. Chang School of Public Health, pointed out that not everyone who follows a plant-based diet eats the same food. So levels of healthiness still vary. So it's true, you could have a brown diet as a vegan or a vegetarian. Not a lot of salads and a lot of things with color in it. So that's true. A vegetarian diet could be based primarily on refined starch and sugar, which we see to be the worst diet pattern. Willett, who was not involved with the new research, said in an email. A healthy plant based diet, he said, should consist mostly of whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, soy, and then slash, comma, beans. So red kidney beans probably would be top of the list, black beans, and so forth. They have the highest amount of antioxidants. And also non-hydrogenated plant oil, so olive oil, sunflower oil, what else? Whatever the oil. So we'll take one more piece and then I move on at my half an hour point. So why plant-based diets are so healthy? Research still are investigating the mechanism through which plant-based diet lower the risk of disease, because that's what we're supposed to eat. We're created to be fruitarians and plant-based eaters. Some of it may have to do with the preventing of obesity, which is true because the more fat you have when you cell, is the more rancid the fat is going or in your body, and the more it's pushing off accidents, and the more you're gonna get sick. So you want to reduce the fat on your body, and that obviously will make you spoil less, which is linked to heart disease and certain cancers, which is true. But the benefits the benefit likely extend beyond that, says Laundry. Some of it depends on weight. Even when weight is maintained or doesn't change, we still see reduction in some of these other clinical health outcomes, especially when it comes to cardiovascular disease. So imagine now they're saying, even how do you say? Even when weight is maintained or doesn't change. So you could have a person of a stouter or fatter build and still have a healthier heart. That's fascinating, right? You could have a person bigger, they're bigger, but they're still healthier than a person probably the same amount of body mass index as themselves that eat meat. So that's important because you can see apples for apples, right? So if a person is 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, they will still do better 100 pounds overweight with a plant-based diet. That's fascinating. So we talk about, sowing and reaping. This is what we're talking about. This is the critical mass of sowing and reaping. I do this, I get this. It's a cause and effect relationship. It shall be well with the righteous because the righteous is doing the right thing. It shall be well with the wicked because the wicked is doing the wrong thing. You reap what you sow. And so you can see this. There's many people who be like, oh no, that's too much. But eating all that lard is not too much for them. And they're cutting their life short, or they're going to increase the amount of diseases and stuff like that, and sickness and ill health and stuff like that, and crazy head with all these animals running around in their body. So notice here, we still see reduction in some of these other clinical health outcomes, especially when it's related to cardiovascular disease, which is fascinating. One possible reason is that many fruits and vegetables are high in anti inflammatory nutrients and antioxidants, which can reduce plaque buildup in the arteries. So you're sterilizing or cleaning out yourself just by eating fruits and vegetables. Ain't that fascinating? Take a little bit more here. It says plant based diet also tend to be high in fiber, which help lower bad cholesterol because you have flow. And so that was by Brer Turner McGreevy, professor of health promotion, education, and behavior at the University of South Carolina. She published a study in 2014 which found that plant based diet can reduce risk for heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Just getting off of that all that meat with all that fat, you decrease your risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Because the moment you start unclog the system, your body starts to flow better. And you're going on, you're giving your pancreas, your kidney, your liver, your heart, your brain a break, your arteries break, and you start to now partake of some fruits and vegetables, you start to clean them out. Notice here, soluble fiber that's found in things like beans and oats, very good, is really powerful tool to help lower LDL cholesterol, which is, let's say, it's a bad cholesterol. And another benefits of plant-based diet may come simply from the absence of meat, which is your source of cancer, other than dangerous chemicals. People who are vegan tend to consume less saturated fat than meat eaters. It's just really hard to lower your saturated fat intake if you are consuming animal-based foods. Cheese, for example, is the number one source of saturated fat in the diet. When I cut off cheese, it was amazing. My health changed. This is you can't imagine what it will do to, because cheese is just a block of concentrated goo from the cow's milk. So if you think drinking milk is a problem, just imagine cheese. Cheese is just concentrated block of nastiness and craziness. But that's what they used to feed us, and that's what I used to eat. I used to love it. So notice here, I'll read again, verse 10 of Isaiah chapter 3. Isaiah chapter 3 again, verse 10 says, say ye to the righteous that it will be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doing. Longer life, healthier life, less sickness, less flus, colds, just even the regular stuff. Because you just decided, listen, I'm going to get off all the animals. We weren't even made to eat animals in the first place. We didn't evolve. And we're not made to be from no primordial soup and to be hunter-gatherers and all that craziness. We were put in a garden, and our primary food should have been mangoes and the tree of life. Some coconuts every now and then. So notice here, woe unto the wicked. It shall be ill with him. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. For the reward of his hand shall be given him. All this genetic engineer stuff and all these chemicals. Just drowning in chemicals. That's crazy. Notice here, as for my people, the children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. Who rule over them? Women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee, the children and the women, shall lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the ways of thy paths. Who lead out in your house? Anyhow, the Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard. The spoil of the poor is in your house. Who are these people? They're pillagers. We don't do pillaging. I don't care if the government say we should do it. We should join them. What mean ye that ye beat my people in pieces and grind the face of the poor, says the Lord of hosts? Remember, as I was saying, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a country. I don't know what it is. It's a corporatocracy. Corporations and multi-billionaires run this place and running down to the ground. Then they don't care about no debt because they don't pay taxes. It is wicked. Notice here, what mean ye that you beat my people to pieces and grind the face of the poor, say the Lord of hosts? Moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are all haughty and walking and stretch it forth, with stretched forth neck and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. So I guess they're swinging their body left and right, sideways. Therefore, the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughter of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. I wonder what that is. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6, 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6, it says here, but this I say, he which sow sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he that sow bountifully shall reap also bountifully. I was supposed to come to the article about the vegetarianism. So I just wanted to skip it because I wanted to deal with it in Isaiah. So if you notice there, you sow, and what you get, you're adding years to your life. You're adding years to your life because remember, men start eating animals and their years were cut from in the hundreds to 125. And then the more they did it, is the more they got cut to 70. And you've known people, they eat so much cheese and milk and all that 25, 35, they're dead. And I was one of them, was heading in that direction. And the moment I switched my diet, I live, because I was having asthma, all kind of stuff. I was actually hypoglycemic at 20s. This is amazing. And I switched, and I'm still alive here with you. I credited that to the blessings of the Lord, firstly, because the Lord led me down this path, and then the plant-based diet. And so then I could say, he that sow bountifully shall reap bountifully. And I've reaped bountifully for the diet. Other people think it's extreme. I'm like, and they look like they're about to kick the bucket. And many of them have kicked the bucket. It's crazy. Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Be ye not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So you look at this text, and this text from I've been young. No, especially I think when I came in, when I was young in church, it was when I came to America, I realized in the churches, they were aggressive against this concept. And they used the one text in the Bible that Christ said, judge not that be not judged. Judge not that you be not judged. And then Christ went on to start talking about, which I covered earlier, talking about don't show your pearls before pigs and don't give what is holy to dogs. That's teaching by Christ is very contradictory if you're not paying attention, because at the same breath, he's telling you, hey, listen, don't give something what is. So then, how you gonna know it's a pig? You have to judge them. You see. So if you read that text, it would destroy almost all the sermons I used to hear about Galatians and Ephesians. I used to have a fanatic that called himself a pastor when I was young, in my early 20s, and all he would do, preach. He almost never preached about any of the two. He just constantly Galatians, Ephesians, and probably if Satan pricked him a little bit, he would go to Romans, and he just keep there like a bug in his head. Couldn't leave those texts. But what they were trying to teach is this, what they call new theology, which is you can't judge and stuff like that. But the same thing, time that Christ talking about judge, he contradicts himself. So then you have to say, well, if Christ is contradicting himself, what is he saying? Because if he's saying somebody's a pig, well, how do you know he's a pig? You have to judge. so, we judge righteous judgment. That's the answer, and that's where Christ doesn't contradict himself. So notice here, he says, "Be not deceived." So there are people who are deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So one of the things I've realized when I was real young, and I couldn't really articulate it, but I concluded in my mind personally observing the preaching, the talk, and Sabbath school lessons, and just being around religious folks, and then start hearing noise about all these mega church pastors, is that it seemed like they have this thing where they deal with an evolutionist, a Gentile, as a raw secular person, or a Christian, that they wanted to take away this concept that you reap what you sow. That's what I conclude. That they didn't like this idea that whatever I'm suffering, it might be because of what I did or what my parents did. And whatever genetics I have, it might be because of my family bloodline. And that lifestyle pulled the trigger, but the bullet and the gun is loaded. And the gun is there and the bullet is in the gun. And if I follow the lifestyle of my family, I might get the same results. They didn't want to deal with that. And so they came up with all kind of machination. And I noticed it, I didn't pick it up at first, that whether you deal with somebody secular or you deal with somebody Christian or you deal with somebody who's evolutionist, they all have the same mindset. I was seeing it in each of them, but I couldn't see it as a group that is just part of the culture. It's not part of religion. New theology is once saved, always saved, is God's grace. If you know the big, I think he's from Houston, the big pastor down there, name and fame pastor, is, oh God, your best days are ahead of you. and then you go look at the news today and see what's going on in Houston. But your best days are ahead of you. And it sounds great. Best days ahead of you if you're the righteous. But if you do wicked, but they don't want to hear that because that would cause them to stop doing all this pillaging all over the world. That would require of them that they have to say, wait a minute, so if I ill-treat others because of the color of their skin or because they're in some foreign country and they don't look like me, so I can attack them because they look Asian, say in Vietnam or whatever. If I believe that God's going to pay me back for that wickedness, I wouldn't do it. But if I tell myself that I evolve, I'm the superior, and this life is about the survival of the fittest, and I can rape little kids because they seem to have a pecking for that. Or if I can attack countries because probably the weak, I can attack Grenada and say it's a war, we want it. I can imagine high-fiving each other, and you say, what a bunch of jerks. And you do that, then, oh, no, we're not going to get paid. So I noticed that they had stayed on, I didn't get it at first, why they did it. But their God, which is Desmond Ford, I taught them to stay in Galatians and Ephesians and do some Romans and try to twist the words of Christ to get rid of this idea that I will pay for what I do in this life. I bring war, famine, pestilence on others, natural disasters on others. It will come back to me. So this was what they intent. Over the years, I kept on saying, why they so focused on, they want the vanilla ice cream lifestyle, but they want war, famine, pestilence for others. I started to realize, oh, they're pillagers. They never repented of this cardinal sin of their foreparents. So they constantly want to hear somebody say, oh, no, you can eat all the animals you want. You can genetic engineer. You can attack an island. You can imagine 300 and something million people attacking an island, probably 200 and something million people at that time. Attack Grenada and overwhelm it and say, we the best. I'm beating your chest. People like, no, well, you don't go attack Russia. That's what you need to go do. And then see, let's do a nuclear exchange and then see who the bad man. But you see, they don't do that. Because remember, the survival of the fittest, the premise of the survival of the fittest is that the strong destroy the weak. You tell me, these are demons. These are sick, garbage people. And I remember when I didn't look, the thing about it, I was 19 at the time, listening to my biology professor in England. And I'm looking at him and thinking, you don't look like you're superior. And the principal, I just summarized it that you sound like garbage. But I wasn't sure. I'm just listening to him and thinking, I don't believe what he's saying, but I don't, you don't look superior, and your principles sound like garbage. You sound like you're a piece of garbage person. But I didn't realize that then I was right. You just had a hunch. I couldn't come out and say it. I was like, I think it's nonsense what he's saying. He's saying that survive you strong destroy the weak. I was brought up in a different environment. I thought that you take care of disabled people, you take care of the poor, the widow. And they're telling me, no, you destroy them. And then I started reading in Matthew 23 that the Pharisees were the same thing. They would destroy widows and rob them and then make a prayer and look good. And I'm like, these are garbage people. These are garbage principles. This is endorsing wickedness. This is the principle of it. It's like wicked people have come to theorize evil. You see what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to give you a theory. So like the theory is your best days are ahead of you. Once save, always save. New theology, grace, grace, grace. Yeah, but God's gonna punish you if you don't repent and you don't make restitution, rich reparation. What are we talking about here? It's gonna cost you something. But no. So what happened throughout history? All the pillagers, they get what coming to them. Everything that they do blow back against them, but they can't learn because they have this bug in their head. Teach in the church about grace, 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 are taught in the scientific environments in schools. Tell your young people that what you do, you destroy the poor, and that's how you make it in this life. No matter if they're Jewish or they whatever, and any garbage that follow this principle, they're just pure garbage. And that's how I saw it when I was young. So I'm just telling you plain. I'm talking raw to you here. And this is clean. This is the clean version, the radio version of what I need to say. All right, these people are terrible people, and they philosophize it. So they go now. So how they keep the system going? You go to school, and you learn the theory. Then you come out, and then the government tells you go pillage somebody. And you say, oh yeah, I'll do it because I'm the fittest. But no, as Christians, we rebel against this nonsense. I protest it. This is evil. You are a man, you don't go with children. Children are not for sexual pleasure and stuff like that. Let the children grow up and let them mature. Right? They're not adults. That is not the fittest. That to me is the weakest. You don't beat up disabled people. You don't beat up widows. You don't beat up poor, but they have enshrined this in this country, whether it be in the intellectual circles or whether it be in the religious circles. And then they say to themselves, especially with people like the pastor from Houston, they say to themselves, oh, God's grace is upon you. Your best days are ahead of you. No, your best days are not ahead of you when you do this wickedness. You want tornadoes in people's life, you're going to get tornadoes in your life. You want peace in other people's life, then you get peace in your life. That's the principle. And that's what is in the Bible, and that's what they refuse to teach, and that's why now they're being wiped out of all churches, because God is to me, has always had enough of them. And God is just remove them from the church. And that's why their numbers are dropping in the church and in life. You don't go into people's society or part of the neighborhood, the hood, and flood them with drugs and believe drugs will not come your way. But that's what happened. This is all I'm saying now is history. I remember when I was young, I saw Donald Rumsfeld beating his chest as a gorilla. Worse. And saying that we can fight multiple wars. And one of the wars he was talking about, he was threatening Syria. How did that war go? All right, but yet you can see right now, pull it up, you'll see. America is still in Syria. Why are they in Syria? Because it's just so happened that everywhere they go to fight terrorism, there's oil. It's amazing. Somebody said, Lloyd, it's a coincidence. It just so happened the terrorists like to be around physically places where there's oil. It's possible. There's a strange possibility there. So I'll close up after 11 minutes. That terrorists like to be where there's oil. I don't know. It seems like oil and terrorism go together. And if you're fighting terrorism, you need to go where there's oil fields. And there's large reserve of oil. Somehow there's, I was watching this, one of the worst human beings I've ever seen. This guy that used to head up Blackwater, the firm, and he was saying, I was watching an interview with him, and he was saying that the next place to fight terrorism is in the Caribbean. Well, what do you know that they're finding more deposits of oil in the Caribbean, not just in Trinidad? And he wants to fight terrorism in the Caribbean, And that's what he said. There's a recent video of him that you can see. The name, normally I don't call him, but I have to call him because I've never seen a demon. It's like Satan is evangelicus. Evangelicus is speaking through to this guy called Eric Prince. What a demon of a human being. He's saying that the next place to kill black people and poor people is in, because that's what the war on terrorism is. It used to be the war on communism, where you kill poor people for some reason. Everywhere the poor people are being killed, there's oil. But now he's saying that he is Venezuela and certain places in the Caribbean. If you look at the Caribbean, they're finding oil in the Caribbean. So, and it just so happened, just somebody said, Lord, it's a coincidence. It just happened everywhere there's oil, terrorists turn up. You look it up and you see what I'm saying. It's amazing. They fight terrorism wherever there's oil. But this is pillaging. And God says it will not be well with them. And that guy, what a demon. This guy want to kill poor people in the name of terrorism for oil. But this is a old sin that they were taught by their parents. For parents. So notice here, be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. I never heard this taught in the church. They don't teach it. If they read it, they just run past it. And you want to say, scratch that record and come back. Tell me, Pastor, what is this saying? You're saying you call shock and awe, desert storm to people. Are you going to have storms in this place? Are we going to get payback for the stuff that we're doing to people, poor people all over the world, in the name of fighting for oil? Notice here, for if you sow to the flesh of the flesh, you shall reap corruption. He that soweth to the spirit shall of the spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them or of the household of faith. So we're supposed to bless everyone, but especially those who we worship with and who are Christians, we bless them the most. We sow because that's the principle that tells us to reap. We don't pillage. Hosea chapter 8 verse 7, Hosea 8 verse 7 says simply, for they have sown the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. It had no stalk, the bud shall yield no meal. If so be it yield, the stranger shall swallow it up. So when you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Somebody say, I never heard that, Lord. My pastors never told me. They just tell me I'm going to be blessed, I'm going to prosper, and I can do whatever wickedness because I'm God's people, I'm God's whatever. Look at the Jews. They're crazy. The people are wild and crazy. And they think they're going to be blessed. Pure curses upon them. And they don't never learn. They don't learn from this history, and they keep repeating history. They cause famine, death, and destruction on others. That's going to be put back on them. And the locusts are not joking with them. They are taking them out. Pillage. This word pillage here, this is in my topic. Which my topic again is sow to reap. The method God approves of. Not pillage to reap. We don't pillage. What's a pillage? Pillage, the word, is to strip ruthlessly of money, treasure, or goods by open violence, as in war. And another word for pillage would be plunder. So we're not plunderers. We don't pillage. When we go to somewhere and preach, we go there to preach, to bless the people. This is why I believe this for years. I said, listen, the church not going nowhere. They do crusades. I think how wicked that is. You're going somewhere, you're doing crusade. You're just trying to get believers. You never see the church go anywhere and the people prosper. People don't go better. Somebody said, well, Lloyd, slightly. At least they're not in the go-go club bars anymore. Yeah, I get that. Economically, listen, what the church leaders do, the colonizers that we have running the church down there in D.C., is no different from what the government do. They're not into blessing the people. You see, the pioneers were sowing and reaping. They were into health. They were into building sanitariums. They were into building up the people. The people prosper. You can see economically the benefit. These plunderers, all they do is go in and preach some evangelistic thing that give you some 28 fundamental beliefs, and then that's it. The rest of Adventism, they don't tell you about because you're not supposed to prosper. Because only they're supposed to prosper. And that's why you can see some of the major leaders in our church, they endorse all kind of candidates and stuff like that. I thought we're not supposed to be involved with that type of stuff. But they do. They're plunderers. They're segregationists. They run a segregationist church. Talk about Israel and South Africa. They're no different. They maintain the church in segregationism. We're not part of that. I couldn't be part of that. When I understand them, I start seeing them. You can see videos of them endorsing candidates and stuff. No, we can't do that. Can't be part of that. These people are, that's why the Lord is getting rid of them. That's why almost no young people of themselves are in the church. Because the Lord just kill them, just get rid of them. Just gotta go. Church not, the gospel not gonna go. That's why if you read Revelation 14, you scratch your head. And I used to wonder, why there's Revelation 18? Why does the gospel have to go again? And then Ellen G. White said that the way they preach it in their time is going to be repeated with additional emphasis of the sins that have come into Babylon. So I said, why the repeat? Because it has to be repeated. The message has to be preached fresh again. They have lost the message. All they've made the church become a creed religion. There's some doctrines. And that's what you don't have to be a Christian. You have to just accept these creeds or these doctrines. Religion is way beyond that. So a pillage is to strip. This is what they do. Rootless of money, treasure, and goods by open violence, as in wars. So that's why every war, for whatever is communism, think about almost all communist fights that we did in the West. It was all in these countries that were once enslaved. This is wicked. You enslave the people and then you destroy them with the IMF, World Bank, and with wars. And God don't see this. They'll never preach what I'm preaching because they'll never tell the people, stop it. Stop doing this wickedness. You enslave the people and then you go and attack them and say, oh, you're fighting terrorism or war. Like people are idiots. You know what they're doing. Right? So, plunder. To steal something from a place or a person by using violence, especially during war, you're stealing. I remember 20-something years ago, no, probably 16, 17 years ago, that I know somebody came, said, listen, somebody I know personally, they said their nephew came back with a duffel bag of money from Iraq and he went and bought a house. Oh, wickedness was going on. And you think God doesn't see this? Are you going to live and enjoy that house? Are you going to enjoy your family? Because God is sleeping? God is not mocked. All right, I saw this for myself. I was like, okay. Buying a house with money stolen from poor people. How many Iraqi die on a false pretext of weapons of mass destruction? And you know what you were doing because there's oil. And as the Adventist Skian, one of the pioneers' son, great-grandson, tell me, I said, what you want to do? Use our military for free? So you're plundering. You believe in that? You're Christian? God's going to wipe you out. So notice here, to steal something from a place, steal something from a place by using violence, especially during war. And to steal works of art. So works of art were pillaged from many countries in the dark days of the empire. So in the dark days of the empire, so if you want a good tour, go to Britain and go tour the Queen's stolen goods. There's a bunch of stolen things that people are saying you need to give back the goods. You have the stolen goods in our house, just like what Isaiah say. It's a bunch of thieves. You see the Queen and the royal family, a bunch of criminals, and you're looking at them. Oh, look at them! They're so criminal. That's what it is. They're a bunch of thieves. All the blood that they're living on is the back of slavery and poor people. It's a lot of blood up on their hands and their foreparents' hands. But they stole it and they say, oh, we're superior because we stole your goods. That's my interpretation of the Queen. I read Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14. And it says, where no counsel is, the people shall fall, but in the multitude of counsels there is safety. He that is shorty, no, I think I want to read this one. Let me read it, come right here. Says, notice in verse 20 it says, they that are of a froward heart is an abomination to the Lord, but such as upright in their way is his delight. So God delights in you when you're of a righteous heart, when you seek to be truthful and to have justice and mercy and bless your fellow human being, sow to reap. Don't follow pillagers and don't be envious of pillagers because you see them, going around looking all fanciful with their stolen goods. God peer curse in their lives, and that's just the reality. We sow to reap. We always seek to bless others. We live an honest life, even if we don't have a lot. We don't worry about these criminals because they always get their due. And that's what we're preaching. May God bless you. Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, again for your word in this day and the way that you continue to bless us and guide us in this life. I pray, dear Lord, that we might truly stick to thy principles, that we might get the blessings that you have promised us. And may you be with us, dear Lord, all the days of our lives. This is my prayer in Jesus' name, amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live on Monday when we should talk about motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.